So clearly THQ Nordic doesn't want me to have a proper sleeping schedule because they released another trailer for Battlefield Bikini Bottom Rehydrated after the bosses one, and I'm just trying to keep up, man. Like, I definitely feel like my age is showing, but here is my analysis of the Goo Lagoon trailer right now.
I got hot sauce in my bag, swag.
Hello there, beautiful human. My name is RidersDX. Welcome to my channel. With today, like I said, we got another trailer to look into. Goo Lagoon has definitely been one of my more anticipated levels after seeing the screenshots that were released for it, and so I was going to this trailer really looking forward to seeing what I had found. And so before I dive into my analysis, let's go ahead and just watch the trailer. And number one, we got to see a little bit of the monsoon robot here up close, and I gotta say, I'm loving the wacky nature of these robots, you know, as I've commented before, but the monsoon robot especially looks extremely wacky with its facial expressions and the way that it laughs. Like, I just love that so much. I can't wait to fight this robot yet again in Battlefield Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. And number two, Goo Lagoon overall is just honestly shaping up to be one of my favorite levels. I don't know about you all, but I love the bright lighting of the beach area. It really makes the level feel so alive, especially compared to the duller colors of the original. Actually, in the original Battlefield Bikini Bottom, Goo Lagoon was one of my least favorite levels visually, just because I felt like it just looked so boring in comparison to all the other levels that had slightly more variations in color. And so to see Goo Lagoon get this glow up so dramatically in the remake is awesome, and I actually think that visually Goo Lagoon may end up being one of my favorite levels in the entire game, just because I'm loving the contrasting colors in all the environments, but the beach area especially just feels so summery, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully this pandemic calming down a little bit and us actually getting some more time outside and just enjoying life, you know. I'm just really excited to enjoy yet another summer, hopefully if the pandemic calms down like I said, but if not, at least I got Goo Lagoon from Battlefield Bikini Bottom Rehydrated to enjoy. And number three, we're going to talk about the caves now, because this has got to be one of my favorite locations in this game thus far. I was absolutely shocked to see what they did to the caves here, because in the original Goo Lagoon and Battlefield Bikini Bottom, it really wasn't a very significant location. You know, you kind of went in and went out, and you know, it didn't really leave a lasting impression for me beyond the Spongebob caveman pictures that we saw. But now the caves have got to be one of the most beautiful locations I've seen in Battlefield Bikini Bottom Rehydrated so far. I mean, I was just absolutely shocked when I saw it for the very first time in those screenshots when the game first got revealed in that huge review a month or so ago. So just wow, it looks absolutely gorgeous. I love the sunlight coming in. I love the grass in there. It honestly, I just can't stop fangirling over this location. It looks that good. At number four, we get to see a picture of Caveman Patrick in the caves, and I'm just like, wow, this was such a cool inclusion. You know, I'm glad that they did. I know that they incorporated SpongeGar in there, so I'm really glad that they fit in Patrick in there as well. Forgive me, I don't remember the name of the caveman version of Patrick, but just know that the caveman version of Patrick is here and he is in full form. And number five, so this is gonna be one of my more mixed comments in this video, but we got to see the bus stop for the very first time here, and I I have some things to talk about. And so one thing I'll say that is a positive is that the bus is fully modeled now. Like, it's no longer a 2D image that takes up the entire screen like the original. Instead, it is a 3D model and it looks great. Like, I really like how the bus looks. Now, the problem with this though is that because it doesn't take up the whole screen and because it is a 3D model, I think there was just some weird thing going on in terms of coding that caused this shell of the bus stop to appear outside of the bus. You know, it's like the layering is a little bit strange in that because the bus is a 3D model now, it can't just cover the bus stop anymore. And so I think they just need to put the bus more in front of the bus stop so that it does cover up the shell, because otherwise it just looks really awkward here, as you can tell. And another thing is when the camera switches back to Patrick, you can see that the bus hasn't disappeared yet. That's a really small detail, but it's definitely something that should be polished up. Like, it just doesn't look professional. It doesn't look like this game is finished at all when you see that. So I really do hope that they fix that. Now, THQ Nordic did actually respond to these concerns, which I'm going to bring up at the end of this video because I think it's a very important point that I really want to discuss before we end this video. So stick to the end for that. At number 6, we get to see the Goo Lagoon Pier, which looks absolutely gorgeous again. And like I said, Goo Lagoon is honestly shaping up to be one of my favorite levels. I just love the contrast and the color selection so much. The wood here just looks so pristine. Like, I don't know how to describe it otherwise. Like, I just love the colors here. At number 7, when Patrick attacks with his stomach, you actually see some of these like small visual effects associated with them that makes like a bit of a yellow spark and a wave that wasn't in the original. So it definitely gives the attack a bit more of a forceful feel to it and just makes Patrick's tummy seem that much more deadly. And because Patrick's tummy can do pretty much anything, like be an instrument, I think it totally suits this attack and just makes Patrick seem that much more vicious in terms of his strength. And I just love that so much. I'm really glad that we get to see this glow up in terms of Patrick. At number 8, while we're at it, we also get to see Patrick's scared running animation here. And I don't know if this is something that we've seen yet or not, but I can't recall actually seeing the characters run away being scared before in footage. Like, maybe we might have seen Spongebob at one point run away being scared, but we haven't seen Patrick do that yet. And so it's really cool to see Patrick do that, and also just makes me feel good that they did incorporate those animations in the game, because that was one thing, while it was small, it added a lot of detail into this game, and I'm glad that they maintained that and didn't like forget to incorporate that into the game. At number 9, we're gonna look at the sliding section here. So we already saw this in the Rehydrated trailer, but I recall when I was commenting on the trailer that I talked about these white lines around the borders that I felt like were a little bit distracting. And so it looks like in this section over here, the white lines are a lot more phased out. Like, they're still there, but they're not as obvious as it was in the original footage. And I think this is a very welcome change, and I actually don't mind this at all. You know, I'm totally okay with them keeping it like this, because the white lines do add a bit more of a shift in terms of like, okay, now you're sliding instead of like platforming like you normally would, but it still doesn't like obscure the view around you. And I really think this looks good. So I'm hoping this is what they did to Sand Mountain as well, because I remember when I looked at the Sand Mountain footage that I was really disappointed to see that take up so much of the screen. So I really hope that they applied this change to Sand Mountain as well. And number 10, at the very end of the trailer, you can see that when Patrick like grows the throw fruit and starts flying back, he spends a little bit more time in the sky actually compared to the original, where it quickly goes to a loading screen. So some people actually theorize that this might mean that all the areas are interconnected without any loading screens, and I hate to disappoint you all, but that's definitely not the case, because when I went to PAX East and I looked at the press demo, there were still those gates between the levels that represented those shifts, and so the loading screens are there. It might just be for some reason that it takes a little bit longer to load this time compared to the previous game, which I'm hoping is not the case, but we'll just have to see when the actual game comes out. I will say though, the view is very nice here and I really do enjoy it. And that is the end of my list, but now I'm going to talk about something that I think is a really important talking point here, because I've seen a lot of concerns about this with each trailer being released, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger in terms of discussion around this. And so something that I really hate to point out here, but I think is important to point out, is that there's a bit of a feel to this game that feels unpolished, I guess. And so the main culprit I'm going to talk about here, besides the bus stop, is that when you have this like footage over here of Patrick jumping on those towels in the beach area of Goo Lagoon, you can see that one of the beach towels pops in at the very last minute over here, which is a little bit odd. Like, that was not in the original game, for instance. And then you see over here right afterwards that the hammer robot pops in at the last moment as well. And so I hate to say it, but this kind of begs the question of how polished is this game going to be when it's released? because one of my fears going into this game, especially when we didn't have that info for so long, is that I felt like they were working under a time crunch and they did not have as much time to develop this game as I had initially thought that they would. And so one of my fears with this game for a while is that it was going to be rushed out the door and not be polished and just be bogged down by so many different glitches and graphical blemishes and such. And I'm not gonna lie, some of this footage is making me a little bit concerned because it's showing that this game has a very unpolished feel to it, which should not be the case, especially with a remake. Like, a remake is supposed to fix all these things and not be worse than the original. And so don't get me wrong, this game still looks great. I think it's gonna be amazing regardless, and all these things are very small nitpicks nonetheless, but they just start adding up, you know, and they will add up to the point where they do take up people's attention, especially people that are looking for flaws in this game, because let's face it, this is a licensed game. People are gonna go into this expecting it to be trash, and so let's try to not give them actual reasons to think that this game is trash, such as like really stupid small mistakes like this that really should be polished out. Now, something that I do want to point out is that THQ Nordic actually did respond to some of these concerns from fans, because some people did point it out immediately once this trailer was released, and they confirmed that some of the footage in these trailers are from previous versions of the game, which we already kind of knew because we saw that Sandy's Dream, for instance, has that like outdated skybox, and that the actual skybox in the real game is going to have Texas at the bottom of it. And so we got even further confirmation from THQ Nordic now that some of this footage is outdated. But here's my concern with that. With most video games being promoted like a month before their release, the footage that should be showcased to people should be final, because this footage should be the footage that's showcasing the game and trying to entice people to buy this game. So why would you try to entice people with footage that's outdated, especially when it had some pretty obvious graphical blemishes like this? It just does not seem like this game has the full development time that it really should have gotten. And so I am going to go into the official game with the hopeful expectation that Purple Lamp Studios did actually polish up all these blemishes and that we will see a lot less of them in the actual game. But if I'm going to be honest, I am going to go into the game with some low expectations as well, because back at PAX East, I did kind of have the same inkling that I felt like, wow, this game looks great, but there's a lot of things that they still need to fix up. And I don't know how old of a build that was, but I think the truth will finally be set free when we finally see the game for the very first time and know just how recent those builds were, because I don't know, it's just most video games does not have this many blemishes pointed out in the trailers leading up to the game's release. Like, the trailers at this point should be final and should have as little of these things as possible occurring in them. And so I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous that Purple Lamp Studios and THQ Nordic just didn't have enough time to polish this game up, and I'm not gonna blame them specifically because I can tell from talking to them personally that they're really passionate about this game and want it to be great and want it to do well. But I think Nickelodeon is probably pressuring them to put this game out ASAP, and the fact that we know that Nickelodeon did not greenlight them to get Clancy Brown to this game just tells me that all they care about is the profit, and they're probably making these moves to try to maximize the profit. And so they're not going to want to invest that much into this game budget wise, because they think, oh, we can just kind of get by with minimal effort. And I don't know, I really hope that this game still turns out to be great despite its shortcomings, but I really don't think we should expect a remake on the level of, say, Crash, Insane Trilogy, or Spyro Reignited Trilogy, because I just don't think that Nickelodeon is investing as much money into this. And so as a result, there's probably going to be some blemishes in the game here and there that are like, man, this really should have been polished before the game got released, but they probably were working on a crunch, and as a result, the game just isn't going to be as perfect as it should be. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Are you all concerned about this, or are you all still thinking that this game will turn out fine? Let me know why or why not in the comment section below. I really hope I didn't like bog anyone down. Like, don't get me wrong, I still think this game is going to turn out to be really good, because as long as they keep the original game intact, then this game is still going to be great, because the original game is great. But I really do think that some of these things are going to bring the game down and make people see it in a lesser light, which is unfortunate, because this game is amazing and all these little things are just nitpicks nonetheless. But nonetheless, it should be stuff that does get addressed and polished up. And so I don't know, we'll just have to wait until June 23rd to see how the game turns out. But okay, thank you so much. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to my channel if you like videos like these, want to see more in the future, follow me on Twitter or Twitch, and join my Discord server, the Spongy Garden. Special shout out to Team Robert Sign Gamer, Glitch Dolphin, Andrew Coughlin, New Gamer Hub, Abraham Muter, Mass Muter, and Angry Studios. These are my Patreon/YouTube members. If you'd like to become a patron or YouTube member, get access to a whole bunch of different perks, then please check out the links in the description box below. But alright, this is Riders, riding out.